Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one about 7 ways to kiss. And I'll tell you what, it's not about kissing, and there used to be 21 ways to kiss, but we're going to take 7 out of that, which was a book I wrote a little while ago, and we're going to reflect back through some of the things and what the kissing actually represents. But before we get to that, Sasha, I need to know, why are you dressed like Marty McFly from Back to the Future?
Mwah. I'm just starting with kisses for you this morning, despite you opening with a Rudy comment. I have got this beautiful new vest, but it is in fact bright orange. And I wore it outside today. And people kept looking at me, and I was confused because I know it's not my natural beauty that's attracting their attention. And I realized when I came back into my hotel room, because I'm in New Plymouth today, that it's because I'm wearing a high-vis vest and they think I'm security.
Oh, no, it's good. It's good. It does remind me of Marty McFly from Back to the Future. And when he goes back and they say, why are you wearing that life preserver?
I like it even more now that you've made that obvious connection. You know what? I love that we're talking about your books because you are, well, one of your books. You've written a number of books and you're an amazing author because it's really easy to read. You take complex ideas, makes them simple. It's a great romp. I reckon everybody should buy or download your book, but I mean, we're just going to tell them what's in it now anyway, right?
Yeah, we are. Well, technically, this was a chapter that came out of a bigger book that I wrote. Yeah, and then
that feels like details.
I know,
chapter,
it's just
book,
chapter,
poem,
book. Anyway,
prose.
and then it got turned into a short little ebook, and yeah, maybe we should re-release that.
And then it became the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That's exactly it. Oh man! All right, so we're talking about 7 ways to kiss. It is really that acronym, which is keep it simple, stupid. It's how do we just take some ideas, make them simple, and then what ideas are just great to have, learn, understand, so that when you're looking at complex things, it is much easier to find the simplest way to get it done. And I am all about simple.
There's heaps of academic work around ways of describing things where most often the simplest explanation is the most likely.
Yeah.
And people would bend over backwards to try and analyze something so it's really complex. And often the first thing a person said, like, oh, it's probably just that the tap's leaking and that's why the bathroom's flooded.
Yeah.
That's probably why the bathroom's flooded. The most simple explanation. So we do get tied up in knots and try and be all complex and sophisticated. And I'm like, this is what I love about your work, Ish. It's just simple, man. Don't be so stupid. Just it's simple.
Yeah.
So hit me with all the stuff that's going to transform my life. Go.
All right. Well, kiss number 1 is learn to ask the right questions. You want to make sure that you're asking the right questions to get the information you need so that when you go to solve the problem or deliver the results, you have all the information. In the book, I kind of talked about a story that I heard when I was really little. I think my dad must have either read me a story, and I don't know why it stuck in my mind, but the story was kind of about a special armed forces group, and I just made up a new version of the story.
Well, I know why it stood out in your mind. This is like stories for boys.
Yeah, stories for boys. So I kind of did an interpretation of it being, 1942, and there was a band of special armed forces, and they were gathered in a room to receive their instructions for their next mission. And the guy was like, your mission is to infiltrate and recover 2 prisoners of war. They were captured last week when their plane was shot down, and we believe they're both alive, but in a heavily guarded location. What he said was, I'm going to fly you in over enemy lines, and you'll jump out and meet at the rendezvous point. We'll give you all the other details there. So the guy left the room, and then he came back about 30 minutes later, and he said, so the men are asking, what height is the plane going to be coming in at? And the guy said, well, because of the radar, we're going to be coming in low, so 1,000 feet. Tell your men that that's going to be necessary, that they're going to be jumping out at that height. So then he came back about 30 minutes later and he said, look, we've been thinking about the mission, and what we'd like to do is we'd like to come in lower at 500 feet, and we'd also like to come in from a slightly different direction so that we come in over a swamp. And then the guy says, yeah, but if you jump out at 500 feet, your parachute won't open. And he goes, oh, we get parachutes? Oh, okay, that changes everything. Like just that little detail of the fact that actually there's a parachute involved as opposed to just jumping out of the plane. And I've been in so many projects where people just haven't asked questions to clarify information. And then we start about working through things. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I wonder what that means, or I wonder what we actually need to know. Or worse, you start solving a problem and then you find out there's another layer to the complexity that you didn't know. So keep it simple, stupid, ask the right questions.
Yes, I just have so many examples from both my personal and professional life where people just kind of take off on the wrong tangent because they just haven't checked in that they've had the right information at the start. I mean, I'm annoying. I ask a lot of questions, but it's because I just really want to understand. I want to know what's going on. What are we trying to achieve? What does it look like? So that there's a balance. I might not start quite soon enough, and that's a risk. So you got to get started. But yes, the quality of your questions.
Cool. All right. Number 2 of our KISS strategies is get commitment first. It's like a prenup for work, right? So I learned this back in the day when I was pitching for jobs or pitching for work or pitching for speaking gigs, right? So someone would come to you and they'll kind of go, oh, we think we'd like to use you on this thing. And so could you come back to us with how you think it could roll out or what you think you might do? And my rookie mistake back then is I would just go at it and I would just start designing up the presentation, building my speech, putting my slide deck together of what this end result was going to be. And then I would show it to them and then they'd go, oh, that's actually not what we want. Or, oh, actually, we've decided not to do it now. And all of a sudden you're like hours in and you didn't actually have the commitment. And sometimes, if we've been booked for speaking gigs, they'll say, what could you speak on? Really all they're after is a general topic, maybe a little description of what it's going to be about. But the actual depth and the thinking and the work, hell no. We shouldn't even be starting that till basically pen to paper. We're committed. We know what we're getting paid. And yeah, it's all on.
And that works 2 ways. So I've started this thing where, because I've learned from the pros, I've been burnt by this before, where to get the date confirmed, you say, well, I take a deposit. So you get a financial commitment from them and they pay a deposit. So they are in. And if they change the event and don't include you in the new event, you keep the deposit. Now, you can, of course, choose to give it back, but you've got it. And there's a different relationship when money's changed hands. What it also means, though, is that I'm more committed. So I'm doing a gig today here in New Plymouth. And so I'm trying out this professional thing where you get them to pay a deposit. So they paid a deposit back in, I don't know, last year sometime. Good for them. And so as it's getting nearer, I'm like, oh, I have to go. I have to turn up. They've already paid a deposit. Yeah. So the commitment actually works both ways. And I mean, I'm never going to pull out at the last minute, but I could have looked at my calendar in January and said, in May, it's actually Chris's birthday today. And when I booked it, I just forgot that. So he's like, oh, baby, you're going away on my birthday. If they hadn't had the deposit back in January, I might have rung up and said, oh, you know what? You should probably get someone else. It's not a good day for me anymore. This story makes me sound terrible. But you know what I mean, right? It's like, now the money, we've got the commitment. The commitment is both ways and everyone's clear we're in, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only person that's sad today is Chris.
And it can be as simple as well as like how the work amount that needs to be put into something can sometimes determine the price, right? So if it's something like they want us to come along and present something that we have presented before versus something that's bespoke and specific to a situation, there might be a slight difference in the price depending on the pre-work. Because I think so often people don't understand how much prep goes into building bespoke type presentations. And then when they hear the amount, they go, well, that sounds expensive. It's like, well, the amount of money is relative to the problem that you're trying to solve. And if there's a whole lot of pre-work that has to go into that, then that obviously has to be taken into account.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
And it's also about, how long it takes to get as good as you are. So sometimes I'll go to a concert and we've completely moved off from the commitment thing, but you go to a concert and I'm like, okay, there's 20,000 people here. I've paid $150 to be here and I'm not in the expenny seat. I'm just in a basic seat. So you do the quick maths on what that artist is getting that night. Now you're going to subtract some costs. There's a lighting rig and they've had to fly in on their own plane, but you still go, this is a lot of money for one. The hourly rate is pretty good. And then I think about, so if I wanted to get as good as Beyonce, how long would it take me? And I'm like, oh, it's actually really cheap that I'm only having to pay $150 to be in her presence. Yeah. So yes, it can be expensive for stuff, but that's because it's not just the preparation that builds in. It's how long did it take you to get that good to be able to deliver that value? And therefore, let's be committed both ways.
Number 3 is, and we've talked about this before, but it was in the book and we're going to talk about it again, it is chunk your time.
Oh, yes.
Probably the single best thing I ever learnt is rather than just putting tasks in my diary and things to do, it's chunking amounts of time dedicated to types of tasks and chunking those when you're at your best to do the task. Because that way you know you're going to be doing your admin during this part of the day, or you're going to be doing your speaker preparation during this part of the day, or you're going to be doing all your reach out and make contact with people and build relationships at this part of the day. And when you chunk the time, you're so much more efficient and you know it's going to get done.
I love doing this for hard phone calls. So I might have 3 or 4 difficult conversations that I have to have on the phone, and I just do them one after another. And I get this momentum of just ripping the Band-Aid off, saying the thing that needs to be said, making the call, letting the person know, boom, 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 boom. And at the end of it, I'm just like, you are euphoric because these conversations that you've been dreading and putting off, you just smash them out in one go. I love chunking.
Yeah. Number 4, template the hell out of everything. If you can create a template for something, you will be amazed at how efficient and time efficient you will become. So an example could be, if you are a presenter and a speaker, can you theme all of your slides to always look like you? There's something about the entire slide deck that you always present, the way you present. So if you had to build a presentation at speed, you could probably take slides from several different presentations and chunk them into one. That's a template. It could be a template for email responses that you always have to write, that the body of the text could be templated or somewhere where you can just copy and paste it. But templates are a really good way to just be time efficient.
Love it.
Okay, number 5 is learn to understand your time. How long does it actually take you to do things? You know yourself best. How long does it take you to write a page of copy? How long does it actually take you to brainstorm a few ideas? Because I think so many people undercook it or they overcook it. And you're laughing. Why are you laughing, Sash?
I'm laughing because I'm going to be 50 in a few weeks. Yeah. Every day, almost without exception, I underestimate how long it takes me to get ready. Yeah. You say you know yourself well. I still kid myself that from bed to car, including, full shower, makeup, hair, the whole thing, I still kid myself about how long it takes. And every time I do it, I laugh at myself because here's this thing I do. I like to think in the shower. So I often have my best ideas in the shower. Something about the water on my head, it stimulates my brain. I don't know what it is. Yesterday, it was 8:45 and I had to be at a meeting 10 minutes drive away at 9 o'clock. So at 8:45, I got in the shower. And as I got into the shower, I said to myself, get wet, soap, get wet, get out. That's all you are going to do this morning. You are in and out so fast. And I'd already decided I wasn't going to wear makeup. And I made up this excuse. It was Free Face Friday. So anybody that asks me why I look like a piece of shit today, I'm going to say, oh, it's Free Face Friday. It's like I'm just getting ready like a man this morning where I'm not putting any makeup on. It's incredibly freeing. So I was making this up. I had it all sorted, in and out of the shower. I got in the shower. as soon as I turned the water on my head, I started thinking about quite a complex situation I've got at work. And I completely, within 30 seconds, lost the intensity of getting out of the shower. And I got out of the shower and it was like 3 minutes to 9. I'm like, you're a grown woman. This is bullshit. You've got to take some control of your life. So when you're talking about knowing how long it takes to do things, I just feel personally attacked. But I need to get real about this. It's time to learn this life lesson. Base makeup takes 7 minutes. Full makeup takes 15 minutes. Whatever those things are. And it might even be useful to actually treat it more scientifically. Actually time yourself. How long does it take you to get dressed?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to know what you're going to wear, right? Because it's not actually the getting dressed bit that takes a long time. It's deciding what to wear. And I think there's a little, that might sound really bloody cheesy, but I think there's a little nugget in there. It's not the doing of the thing. It's the decisions around the thing. So when you say, how long does it take you to write a page? Well, not long at all if you know what you want to say. It takes you a long time to decide what you want to say.
Exactly. And even like just timing of things like getting to the airport for your flight. And, I just see these people running in to the last second, and then there's a line, and they just haven't taken into account that they had to wait. They just thought they'd be able to get through and just walk in the last minute. But it's all of that stuff. When do I need to be there? How long will it take me to drive? Like working backwards and then going, yep, that's when I'm going to be leaving. And if I want to be leaving, then I need to be getting up at this time, and I can't spend 10 minutes figuring out what I'm going to wear, so I'm going to plan that the night before. So it's just making sure that you do plan.
So can I ask you this? Have you had those conversations deliberately with your children?
That's a good question. To be honest, both the girls... No, actually, that's not fair. One of my girls is particularly good at getting up and being somewhere. She's kind of got that.
And have you taught that, though?
I think she has learnt that as a result of living with me, and she's like me. But the other daughter is more like her mother.
Right.
and although I may have said, maybe you should have got up a bit earlier, that just...
that sounds like what a great teacher you are. Maybe you should have got up earlier if you wanted to be there on time.
Exactly. Well, I think... You
sound fun.
It's like the difference between parenting and trying to deliver information and coaching and delivering information. Right. You always listen to your friend's dad. You never listen to your own dad, do you?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I think so many of these things that we're talking about, like using templates, asking better questions, working out how long it takes you to do something, these are like basic life skills that we just don't teach our kids.
Yeah.
So some of them get it by osmosis, some of them don't. And you go, why is that? There's a whole kind of basic set of how to do life skills that we hope people pick up along the way. And so what I'm really saying is it's my mum's fault that I don't know how long it takes me to get ready.
I love it. Well, it was funny the other day because I had the opportunity to teach my girls, one of them, to ask better questions. So going back to kind of our first one. So she was working at McDonald's and has decided that she doesn't want to do that anymore, wants to do something maybe in retail, something a little bit different. So I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So she organizes this new job interview. They really like her. So she's like, yep, got the job, all good. Resigns from McDonald's, then goes in to sign the contract, and they're only offering her 11 hours and she wants 20. And so I kind of said to her, babe, how did you get that far without knowing what the hours were? And she said, I just saw the days, and it was... But she had just applied the logic of McDonald's being the 9-hour shifts, to the same days. And I was like, well, what have you learned? She goes, I need to, make sure I ask better questions. And so then we just applied that to the next role that she went to. And I said, when you are applying for that, just be upfront right at the beginning and clear. They know when you can work and how many hours you're after, because you may not even bother having the interview if they can't deliver on that. Hard lesson to learn, but good one to learn early.
Yeah. Powerful. Oh, good parenting-ish.
Thank you. So, yeah, I can't do the time one, but definitely the question one. Okay, next one, number 6, learn to prioritize. I know you hear that all the time, and it's like it's such a cliche, but I think if we're going to keep it simple, stupid, the best way to keep it simple is to learn to prioritize what needs to be done first. Is it contingent on something else? So if you were planning a party and you were going, what is the first decision I need to make? It's probably around the date, right? Like, when are you going to have it? Because the date is contingent on the invitations and the venue. But then the venue is contingent on how many people are going to be coming to this party. So there's things that you need to understand when you're prioritizing things. They have more weight, or if you do them later, it can have a consequence back to the original decision.
I love this. How do you have a system? Do you go ABC, 1, 2, 3, or do you sort of have an instinctive feel? What's your process for prioritizing your day or tasks?
If it's like a project, we'll just break down everything that needs to be done, and then good old Post-it notes, just order them, and then is any of these contingent on something else? So just a good scope right at the beginning. If it's like, what do I need to get done today? Usually I'll have 1, 2, or maybe 3 priorities throughout the day. So as the noise happens, I know that by the end of the day, I still need to get those 1 or 2 things done, and that's the primary focus, and that's what gets the lion's share of the time. Now, if something comes along that takes that priority because it's an emergency, well, that priority then has to just move to the next day. Like, it needs another space to go. Otherwise, something else will come up. And probably the easiest way is deadline, right? That's why we'll study for our exams. Well, not all of us, Sasha. I know you study for exams months before they happen.
No, I'm the classic.
Are you last minute girl?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah.
I'm last minute girl.
But it's funny, because suddenly the deadline's there, and that's where the stress is. Like, poor Sam, she's trying to edit a video and she just miscalculated her time, and so she's up till 3 a.m. because it's due the next day. No judgment on that. She's still got it done, but if the editing had started earlier, because, man, editing just takes such a long time. So once you understand kind of how long it takes, then it's much easier to know when you want to start it. But I guarantee she would have gone, I love editing. I'm just going to leave that and I'll just get it done. And then all of a sudden it started to drag out.
And you're saying no judgment, whereas I'm saying high praise. All the best work gets done between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. In my experience.
Not by me.
Well, the trick to that is recognizing as we change how those biorhythms change as well. So I used to be, university days, very good at 11 p.m. That's a great time to start an essay because the noise from the day, the flat's quiet. I've probably had a nap in the afternoon, and now I've got the calmness in my mind to go. And I can put it all down, and by 2 a.m. I'm really on a roll. I'm jacked up on instant coffee. Good. When the kids were little, I used to work through the night for Les Mills.
Right.
So I would be designing training programs. Lots of words needed to be written at that time, and I would go and sleep in a separate room with Portia when she was a baby. She would wake up for a feed at, say, 2. I could do another couple of hours of work. She'd wake up for a feed at 5. I'd feed her. And so I'd get into this rhythm where I could also work during the night. And what old me forgets is that those things are no longer true. So I still have this thing where I go, what I'll do, I'll fly home from Christchurch to Hamilton. I'll get some dinner and I'll have a little bit of time with Chris and Tiger or whoever's living at our house at the moment. And then when it gets to about 8:30, I'll get into my office and I'll do 2 solid hours before 10:30. And then I'll go to bed. That's going to bed in a reasonable time. 8:30 comes, I can't even string a sentence together. So this recognition of we just work differently, and that's fine. And I'm looking forward to what's happening to, say, my parents now who are, let's face it, they're elderly. They hate me using that word, but they are elderly. They're often awake in the night. And mum can do all kinds of things in the night because she just doesn't need as much sleep now. So it's recognizing what are the rhythms that you're in and making sure that you're not under pressure to be operating when you're at your worst.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that prioritization also understands that sometimes we prioritize distraction, and as a result, we don't get the important thing done. So if you are going to hop on your phone and flick through Instagram for a while just to give your mind a bit of a rest from what you were writing, set an alarm for 10 minutes because otherwise suddenly it's like 20 minutes or 25 minutes and and we all know how that goes.
And to recognize too, I think we tell ourselves all these lies like, I will be much more productive if my desk is tidy. Or I can't even begin to start this project while my office needs a vacuum.
I need a new diary.
Those things may be true, or they might just be bullshit. And we need to ask ourselves those questions. Just recognize every time you go, I can start that, but only when something else has happened. We make the start contingent. And often the hardest thing is just getting started.
Yeah. All right, so number 7, it kind of leans into number 6, but is basically learn to delegate it like a serial killer should delegate raising their kids, right? There's just some things we shouldn't be doing, and other people can be doing that for you. And it could even be, where is the best use of your time? Like if you make the most money in your business doing these activities, what are the other activities that someone else could be doing so you can spend more time doing the dollar productive activities as opposed to mowing the lawn or whatever it is?
Oh, yes.
All right, so those are 7 out of a big book of 21 ways to kiss, but basically ask the right questions, get commitment first, learn to chunk your time, template the hell out of everything, understand your time and how long it takes you to do things, learn to prioritize and learn to delegate things. If you recognize some of those priorities are not where you should be spending your time, get someone else to do it. So I started watching Bullet Train last night, which is Brad Pitt's movie Brad Pitt and Sandra Bullock.
So it's Sandra Bullock's movie.
Yeah, it's Sandra Bullock's movie, totally. Well, she was only really in it at the end, kind of. But, well, actually, I don't know because I fell asleep. And it's so annoying because it was so good. Like, it started off and I was like, this is my kind of movie. It is somewhere between Everything Everywhere All at Once and John Wick. It was just all over the place, funny. And then all of a sudden I was asleep and then I woke up and, we have to watch it again.
What you did wrong?
What?
You think back to your 7, keep it simple, right? You didn't allocate the right time for watching the movie.
Oh, that's
your old man time. When you were younger, you used to be able to start movies at that time. Now you can't.
7:30. That was a bit late.
7:30. Too late on a Friday night.
And it was funny because I know Jo was only staying in the room to watch it because I was watching it. As soon as I was asleep, she was gone.
She was gone to do something useful with her time. I love that. I was driving from Hamilton to New Plymouth last night and I listened to a new podcast, which I am in love with, but I think I'm in love with the person. So you know Brett Goldstein, who is Roy Kent in Ted Lasso?
Yes.
So, Grouchy, swears, Roy Kent. Well, Brett Goldstein, the actor, who's also a writer and fantastic comedian, he has a podcast called Movies and Death. So he loves movies. He's a movie aficionado.
Yeah.
And he interviews famous people and talks to them about their life through the lens of movies. So what's the movie that made you cry? What movie scared you the most? What's your most favorite movie? And there's some discussion of death in there as well. And he speaks not like Roy Kent. He's got a really high-pitched voice. It's completely disarming. So for the first 10 minutes, I just can't get over that's what Brett Goldstein sounds like. He is gentle and warm and kind and really speaks differently to his character. But he had Fern Brady on, who's a comedian who is a wonderful, wonderful woman, and their hour together discussing movies. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it was episode like 200 and something. So there's hundreds more to listen to. And what you'd love about it, I think, Ish, is that it just talks about movies.
Brilliant.
Just movies that have moved people, movies I'd never heard of. So I've got a list to watch. I can't recommend that highly enough.
All right, I'm on it. I am on it.